when you order pizza, what kind of sides do you get with pizza?
Well, I love breadsticks. So
Mm.
some places offer garlic bread. That's not for me. That to me, that's like a spaghetti side, not with pizza.
Yeah. What about a
So I
garlic
prefer.
knot?
Oh yes, okay. I'm totally on board for a garlic knot.
Yeah, okay. Garlic
Um,
knots are good.
but the important thing about when you order breadsticks or any side is that you get both a marinara sauce and a nacho cheese sauce.
See, no. This is what
No,
I think we realized that this is a regional food and probably should have gone on our regional food episodes.
yes.
I'm pretty sure you're the only people that put nacho cheese on breadsticks.
I cannot believe it. Okay, so like I saw some Instagram posts with someone saying, "You know you're from Indiana if you order nacho cheese with your breadsticks." And I was like, "That's not Indiana. That's just standard. Everybody should be eating breadsticks with nacho cheese." And so then I started Googling it, and sure enough, most people are like, "No." Or I
No,
asked you too. I was like, "Don't you get nacho cheese with your breadsticks? How has this never come up?"
no.
I feel
Definitely
like
the answer is no.
that boggles my mind because it is so ubiquitous here. There's no pizza place I can think of that does not offer nacho cheese as a side dipping sauce. And there are many restaurants even that are not pizza restaurants, just like bars or whatever, that will offer breadsticks and cheese as an appetizer.
So here,
Nacho cheese,
like
though.
in other places, I would say you could get pretzels, and
Sure.
the pretzels will sometimes have like a cheese sauce or like a beer cheese with the pretzel,
Yeah.
but definitely not breadstick. In fact, I'm not even sure how many places would offer breadsticks as an appetizer, period.
Well, I know you said that, and that also boggles my mind because, again, I pulled up 4 restaurant menus and sent them to you, and I was like, all of these are places that we go, and all of these places have breadsticks and nacho cheese as a
Yeah,
side.
I'm pretty sure
And
this should
so,
have been a regional food conversation in
yes,
that
yeah,
episode because
I had no
that is
idea.
just not a thing. At
I
least
had no idea.
someone prove me wrong. Someone prove me wrong.
Yeah, yeah. From
But
what
I
I
feel
can
like that's not a
tell,
thing.
yeah, the internet agrees with you. It's not a thing except apparently in Indiana because I've looked. I'm telling you, you all
Okay.
are missing out. I'm Katie.
And I'm Emily.
We're 2 long-distance best friends with a passion for learning about all the things that make everyday life interesting.
With my PhD in geography,
And my master's in library science.
doing deep dives on topics is our idea of a fun time together. We'll share our findings with you on
Researching the obvious.
Well, all I have to say is that this episode this week is about pizza, and it made me incredibly hungry and wanting pizza very badly.
Yes.
And I think I'm going to order pizza tomorrow as a result of that fact.
Yes. Yes. I love pizza so much. I think if I had to pick a favorite food, it would be pizza.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, I
Bold
could
claim.
eat pizza every day, especially with the large variety of pizza types. I mean, why not? I don't think I would get tired of it.
Yeah.
I really don't. Yeah.
So I knew there was a lot of different pizza types. And then I went down the rabbit hole of researching all of these pizza types. And there are more pizza types than I think I even realized.
I had no idea either. I was shocked.
Yeah. We're definitely not going to be able to cover every pizza type in this episode.
Nope.
So apologies in advance if we don't get to your favorite pizza type, because there were way more types of pizza that existed in the United States than I even realized.
Yeah, for sure. And we're also not going to go into depth about toppings either, because that just opens...
It's true.
That could probably be a whole other discussion in and of itself. So
yeah. And I feel like it becomes very like contentious.
Yes.
You know, do you like pineapple on pizza or don't you?
Yes.
Apparently mushrooms are the least liked pizza topping.
Yeah, people hate mushrooms.
That is shocking to me.
They're one of my favorites.
Yeah, that's like standard pizza topping to me.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're not going to get into this.
That's right, we're not.
Contentiousness of pizza toppings.
Stick to...
We're also going to try to refrain from ranking pizza types because there's a place for every pizza.
We accept all pizza types here.
All pizza is honestly still pizza, so
Yes. And it's delicious. Almost always. And there's not a place for bad pizza, but
I mean, there's definitely bad pizza, but I'm not going to say that that's a result of the type.
That's true. That's absolutely true.
Know? Right?
Yes.
Like some places just aren't very good at making pizza.
I mean, I'm saying I still eat bad pizza too. Like if all I had was one of those cafeteria square pizzas that basically was out of the microwave, like I'd probably still eat it if it was offered to me.
I mean, that's fair. Fair point. Mm-hmm. It's just bread and sauce and cheese. So
I mean, you can't go wrong.
I feel like when we were in college, first of all, the dining hall had a brick oven in it, so you could get brick oven pizza. Yeah,
there were always 6 fresh pizzas out. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You can just pick up.
And you could get a whole pizza from the dining hall and take it out.
It was good pizza, though. The place that always sticks out in my head was the Durham House of Pizza.
Oh, yeah.
Affectionately known as D-Hop. That's right, yes. And that was in our little tiny downtown college town. It was kind of like the pizza place, I would say.
But you could just go and get a slice, late at night. Yeah. And it was, classic New York.
Wednesdays were dollar slices at D-Hop, I think. You get a slice of pizza for $1. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
And then we would order Domino's, too.
I think it was probably the only takeout pizza place.
And they would deliver.
Yeah, so.
And it was cheap. There were always coupons in our mailbox and on our doors. And
yes. And you could get breadsticks.
Yes. I guess we must have not had cheese.
The Cinesticks. No. We did not have cheese because that's not a thing.
I can't believe that didn't come up at that time then. But
no, I can't believe I'm only learning this, that Indiana has cheese with breadsticks.
I can't believe it either. It seems like a topic I would bring up more.
Anyway, pizza is a very popular food in the U.S.
especially
in general.
In college.
Yeah. And I feel like people have very specific opinions about pizza. And especially if you were to talk to someone from New York City, they're going to be like, our pizza is the best pizza, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I mean, I've had New York pizza and it is good. I've had other pizza that is also good. So
yes,
I feel like pizza can be contentious.
Yeah. Well, I think it's also one of those foods that ends up being very regional, and people in that region are proud of it. And I think that there's a lot of pride in how you make your pizza or why your pizza is so good, or what, whether it's toppings or the sauce or the dough or the cheese, or there's so many combinations that can be made. And then different regions have taken that in different directions. And then I feel like it becomes this regional identity thing.
It's also that nostalgic factor, too, that we talked about in the food episode as well, where you're feeling like this is the pizza I grew up eating. This is the pizza that is familiar to me, that tastes like home pizza I had when I was a kid. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Would you like to know the Oxford English Dictionary definition of pizza?
Oh, sure.
So, Oxford English Dictionary defines a pizza as a savory dish of Italian origin consisting of a flat, usually round base of dough, baked with a topping of tomatoes, cheese, and any of various other ingredients such as meat, anchovies, or olives. It's a broad definition, I guess. But what I thought was interesting as I was reading the definition of this is they actually don't know the etymology of the word pizza either. There's a couple different theories about how that word came about to be assigned to flatbread with, toppings or whatever, but they don't know. But what they do know, or what I learned when I was doing my research, is obviously it originated in Italy, and it was really kind of a poor person's food, working class, just something that you could grab on the go and eat. And you might not have a lot of fresh produce or things like that, so it would just be the dough and tomatoes and cheese. So in particular, I decided to do some research on the Neapolitan pizza, because that's arguably one of the most famous Italian styles of pizza, and it informs a lot of the U.S. pizza styles that we're going to be talking about today.
Okay.
So Neapolitan pizza, if you're not familiar, was invented in Naples in the late 1800s. There had already been flatbreads with toppings and like sauce or whatnot, but not with tomatoes. So tomatoes were actually brought back to Europe in the 16th century by explorers who had come back from Peru.
Tomatoes are a food from the Americas, right? They're a vegetable from the Americas. They're not European natively.
Yes. So that's kind of when the Neapolitan pizza originated. So the guy that they credit with inventing it, his name is Raffaele Esposito. He's given credit for inventing the margherita pizza when King Umberto I and Queen Margherita of Savoy visited Naples, and he made them a pizza and named it after the queen. And the ingredients were supposed to be representative of the colors of the Italian flag. So red tomatoes, white cheese, and green basil. And so that's a traditional, very simple margherita pizza. And in particular, the Neapolitan style is identified by its dough, the ingredients, and then also the way you bake it. So what's crazy about Neapolitan pizza is it is such a important part of that Italian region's heritage that they have an official Neapolitan pizza association, and they've set like standards or guidelines of what you have to do in order to say that it's a Neapolitan pizza. So they don't allow deviations from that if you want to call it Neapolitan pizza. You can call it Neapolitan style if it's close. But if you want a true Neapolitan pizza, so kind of like, champagne can only come from that Champagne region in France. So
that's what I was going to say. It's Neapolitan pizza if it's from Napoli. Otherwise, it's just sparkling pizza. Is that the situation?
So actually, it is registered as a traditional specialty guaranteed, which actually does not have restrictions on where the pizza comes from. So you can make Neapolitan pizza anywhere in the world, but it must adhere to their standards, which are, I have them for you, because I think this is fascinating. Okay.
Yeah.
So the tomatoes must be either San Marzano tomatoes or Pomodorini del Pianolo del Vesuvio. So grown on the plains south of Mount Vesuvius. So obviously, I'm sure that volcanic soil affects the overall flavor of the tomatoes. And the sauce must be uncooked. All right. So you don't cook the sauce. It's just crushed tomatoes that are raw. Yeah. The cheese must be mozzarella di bufala campana, cheese made with milk from a water buffalo, or you can use cow milk mozzarella as well. But specifically only those two types of mozzarella.
Are there water buffaloes in Italy?
So yes, there's a region of Italy that is like famous for it, and they make it. It's a very specific type of mozzarella that's considered to be better than others. And it has to be fresh mozzarella, right? It's not low moisture, like shredded stuff. It's the slices of fresh mozzarella. Dough has to be made with wheat flour, natural Neapolitan yeast or brewer's yeast, salt and water only. There's no fat, so no olive oil or anything like that, and there's no sugar. So those cannot be added to the dough. And additionally, the dough must be made from a medium strength, finely ground wheat flour with no more than 20% what they call strong flour, which was something that was imported from Canada after World War II. So it's like an imported flour, not a traditional Italian flour.
Interesting.
It also must be kneaded by hand, or you could use a slow speed mixer. And after the rising process, it must be formed by hand, no rolling pins, no machines. And then no pan, you have to bake it in a wood-fired oven for 60 to 90 seconds at a whopping temperature of 485 degrees Celsius, which is 905 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah, oh my gosh, that's so hot.
So it's a fast bake
in
a very, very hot oven, which results in that like classic bubbly crust with the char on the edges.
So my question is, if Neapolitan pizza can be made anywhere, but it has to adhere to this standard, essentially, does that mean that all Neapolitan pizza tastes the same, no matter where you get it?
Yeah. It
Wow,
should.
interesting.
If you're
Interesting.
claiming that it's Neapolitan. Now, obviously, like I said, you can do Neapolitan style, and then people have taken Neapolitan style dough and made different things with different toppings. But as far as Italy is concerned, and as far as the Associazione Verace Pizza Napolitana is concerned, if you're going to say it's a Neapolitan pizza, all of those things must be true. So you can't add seasonings to the sauce.
Very specific pizza. I feel like that's definitely the most specific pizza we're going to be talking about in this episode.
Yeah, for sure. Those strict regulations were a little bit more recent. So that came about in the 80s. It came out of an interest to preserve this very traditional Italian dish and just kind of establishing this is what we call Neapolitan pizza kind of thing.
Let's see. Okay. So Neapolitan then was invented in the late 1800s in Italy. And then that's what originally would have come to the U.S.?
Yes. So then when Italians started immigrating in the early 1900s into America, they brought that style of pizza and started opening up pizzerias in New York City. And actually, so for New York style pizza, it's modeled after the Neapolitan. And the very first place to sell it was called Lombardi's, and they opened in 1905. So that is on record the first application for a license to make and sell pizza in New York City. So it's been around for a long time. So Lombardi's credited with creating the original New York style pizza, but I gather that that's maybe a little bit debatable because then one of his employees, Antonio Totano, left and opened up his own pizzeria on Coney Island. People kind of think that maybe he was the one who was really responsible for the quality of the pizza and, like making
the popularization of it. And
Right. So even though Lombardi opened the business, some people kind of feel that maybe Totano was kind of the food mind behind it, and then he opened up his own restaurant. Both of those restaurants used coal-fired ovens, not wood-fired ovens, but they did use the hot oven style like that. So we have Neapolitan, which is very strict guidelines, very specific style. And then I think as pizza kind of came over to America and became more popular, there were just more and more variations on that kind of basic idea, right? So New York style pizza is pretty close, but they do put sugar and olive oil in the dough. So that's a big distinction. And it's a high gluten bread flour, yeast, and water. They do hand toss it, so that's important. And the crust then becomes soft, but a little bit crispy. And then, of course, an important part is that it's foldable because everyone apparently in New York City likes to fold their pizza slices in half. And I've never been a big fan of that. I'm not going to lie, but you do you, New York, you do you.
Yeah.
And then the sauce, typically tomatoes, they put sugar in the sauce as well as some herbs, garlic, salt. So again, not just raw tomatoes, and it's cooked, right? So the sauce is simmered and cooked, which I think we're all probably a little bit more used to a cooked pizza sauce instead of just the raw.
Yeah, that actually surprises me. I didn't realize that Neapolitan was a raw sauce. Yeah, which is interesting.
Yeah, I suppose they get cooked a little bit in the really, really hot oven, but they're not cooked before going on to the pizza is the important part. Right. For New York, the cheese is low moisture mozzarella, right? So the shredded stuff, not the fresh stuff.
Fresh, yeah.
But that creates a lovely cheese layer topping.
Maybe when the Italian immigrants came over to the U.S. and brought this food with them, they might have had other ingredients that they were exposed to, why they would have started putting other toppings on besides just the traditional.
And what I thought was interesting too is I was reading a little bit about the origins of New York style, because I mean, arguably it is like the most famous U.S. style pizza, is that it was really not that popular. Obviously the businesses survived and like people, but it was kind of like in Little Italy or in these immigrant pockets. So it was an ethnic food that the majority of the city wasn't traveling to get New York style pizza like you do today. But it was much more localized in that way. It wasn't quite the icon of the city that it is today.
Interesting. Did you happen to see when it started to become popular?
It was really in the 40s after World War II when soldiers came back from World War II, and they had been in Italy, and they had been eating pizza, and they wanted it. So that was part of it. And then I think the other part of it was that as Italian immigrants migrated up the socioeconomic ladder as well, they kind of became more ubiquitous in the city and then expanded into other locations as well.
Oh.
It became less of like ethnic food then, or like street food, because they were a more established ethnic group.
Well, I know New York style pizza is pretty famous for big slices, right? The big slices of pizza. But I'm just going to say, when I lived in Washington, D.C., we had jumbo slice pizza.
Yeah,
and
this is nuts.
I know people are going to say, oh, but New York pizza is big pizza. Jumbo's not a style, it's a size. I'm telling you, it is a style. And when you go to DC, there's a lot of places now where you can get jumbo slice. It's pretty ubiquitous throughout the city. But basically what jumbo slice is that it is a New York style pizza, but huge. So a typical pizza, like a standard US pizza, will range in size from 8 inches, which is like personal pizza, to a New York style pizza in New York City is usually about 18 inches in diameter. 18 inches is pretty decent sized pizza. DC jumbo slice pizza is 32 inches in diameter.
Oh my God. That's like almost twice as big.
Yes, it is a 32-inch size pizza in diameter. And the individual slices then that you buy, they're about 15 inches long. And at the top, they're 12 inches wide.
Ooh, now that I like, because the crust for me is the best part.
So it's 12. Yeah, so it's like a foot long at the top and then over a foot in size. Typically, if I was going to buy a jumbo slice, I would split.
I was just going to ask, is that that sounds like a reasonable single serving, possibly. I mean, I don't know.
Jumbo slice is definitely like a late night food where people stop in and get a slice, at 2 a.m. or whatever. And usually they're pretty cheap, like $5 for a slice, but you're getting a massive piece of pizza. So, you could eat a whole one. It would be like eating 2 pieces of pizza, but I would usually share. But basically the way that this pizza came about is that there was a pizza place in the Adams Morgan neighborhood of DC, which is big nightlife scene, has had a big nightlife scene for a long time. And so it was a pizza place called Pizza Mart. And so in the late 90s, so 1999-ish, there was a guy who was working at Pizza Mart and they had a giant leftover ball of dough that he found in the back. And so he decided to try to figure out what to do with this giant ball of dough. And so he made this giant 32-inch diameter pizza and cut it up, and people immediately got obsessed with it. And so a bunch of other pizza places in Adams Morgan started copying that. And then really, like I said, you can go pretty much anywhere in DC now and find a jumbo slice.
About 32 inches in diameter.
Yeah, but typically you wouldn't buy the whole pizza, right? You just go and buy a slice.
Ask. Could I, though, if I wanted to?
You might have to order it ahead, like in advance, to make sure that they make you one. Because usually what they'll do is they'll make the pizzas and then they'll ask you what toppings you want. And so they'll take a slice and put the toppings on and then put it in the oven to heat it up with the toppings on. Or most of the time people just eat the cheese slice. Because they don't make those giant pizzas with every topping because they're so huge. So jumbo slice, I feel like, takes the New York style pizza just to an extreme end of things.
I can't believe we never got this when I visited you in DC.
I know, I am a little surprised. It's not just a size of a pizza, it's definitely a style of pizza.
I would agree with you.
Yep.
Well, so I live in the Midwest, Indianapolis. And interestingly, but not surprisingly, Indiana doesn't really have a style of pizzas. What we do get, though, is a lot of influence from Chicago. So I decided to look into Chicago-style pizzas. And I say pizzas because there's two types of Chicago style pizza. Most people think of the Chicago deep dish style, and a lot of people associate that as like the Chicago pizza. But if you live in Chicago or if you live around Chicago, what's actually more popular for people who live there is a tavern style pizza. This tavern style is kind of fun because it started around the 1930s, they think. It's a thin crust. It doesn't have to be like crispy thin, but it should be a thin crust. And even though the pizza is round, they cut it in squares. So you get these small squares of pizza and these little corner pieces that are like only crust because it's a circle. And it was served in bars in Chicago, sometimes for free, to encourage people to keep on drinking. So they purposefully cut it into
Chicago.
Yes, they purposefully cut it up into small pieces. And then while you're sitting at the bar having your beer, they're like, here, have a free pizza because you'll definitely want more beer with your pizza. And the slices were meant to be small and handheld so that you could literally eat with one hand and drink your beer with the other hand. And they just like throw it on a napkin, like very informal. Like informal bar food is what tavern style started out as.
Interesting.
So there's no specific way to make it. It's really just the characteristics are it's thinner, it's circular, and you got to cut it in squares or little rectangles. And that's a Chicago-style tavern pizza. So, deep dish, the crust should be light, crispy, and have a lot of butter in it. So it's
more
almost
like a
as
pie
flaky.
crust?
Yes, it absolutely. It's kind of like a pie crust, a savory pie crust, or like a quiche crust. And then mozzarella goes on the bottom, low moisture mozzarella, right? And that helps the crust not get soggy because this pizza has to be baked for a long time. It also keeps the cheese from burning because then after the cheese, you put your toppings on. Traditional ones are sometimes like tomatoes or sausage, or you can really do anything. We get one that's mushroom and spinach. And then on the very top, you put crushed whole tomato sauce. That's one of the more unique things I think that people recognize about Chicago deep dish is the sauces on the top. But the reason is it has to be baked for like 45 minutes, like almost an hour. So if you had cheese and toppings on top, like they'd be fried. But instead, the tomatoes cook and caramelize. And then when you slice it, right, it should maintain its integrity. You should be able to pick it up like a piece of pie and put on your plate. And it is a fork and knife situation, which I know can be controversial, but there's just really no other way.
Yeah. Sometimes people eat a jumbo slice in DC with a fork and knife. So, you know.
Okay.
Because it's too big.
I guess that's reasonable. I accept that. The deep dish, obviously, also made in a deep pan. It's very thick, like an inch and a half. And, you know, that's a classic Chicago style.
Yeah, it'd probably be pretty hard to eat that with your hand because it'd be like picking up a piece of pie or a piece of quiche with your hand and eating it.
Yes, exactly. It can be done because I have done it, but I don't recommend it, really. It's not. It's not pretty.
If you're desperate times.
Chicago deep dish was invented in the early 40s in that post-World War II era where pizza was becoming much more popular across the country. And there were these two business partners who wanted to open a restaurant, and they were testing out pizza recipes. And one of them was actually originally from Texas, and he kept on wanting the pizza to be bigger, like more. We need it bigger. It needs to be more. And apparently that's how they kind of arrived at the deep dish, which was originally created at Uno's.
Uno's invented the deep dish?
Yeah, well, so here's the thing, caveat. This is similar to the New York story where, from what I can tell, that is a point of contention because, yes, that was the first restaurant to have Chicago deep dish. However, Lou Malnati, his dad, I believe, was the chef and worked for the people who owned Uno's. And so arguably, he could have created the recipe and been responsible for the actual invention of the pizza. And then Lou Malnati's broke off and opened his own restaurant. The son opened his own restaurant with his dad's pizza recipe.
That's so interesting because I feel like when I go to Chicago, the place to get pizza is Giordano's.
That's the other big one. Yes. So Lou Malnati's, Uno's, and Giordano's are like the famous Chicago places. I was similar where so it started at Uno's, but then arguably, like I said, Malnati's might have been kind of responsible for the creation of it. And then
and then he broke off. We'll get more into this later when I talk about some of the pizzas that I looked into, but I feel like this is a common trend where it's like someone works at a pizza place and then breaks off and does that same style. I mean, that's like what happened with Coney Island in New York City too, right? With New York style pizza. So
yes.
Yeah. Yep. Interesting.
That's Chicago deep dish. And again, we have that here in Indy as well as the tavern style, as well as, I don't know, several other styles.
So the deep dish, I feel like, I don't know, like, does the deep dish really come out of Neapolitan, or was it's its own sort of invention?
It's its own invention.
Yeah.
It's just taking common pizza ingredients, but changing
making a new
style
thing.
completely.
Huh. Yeah, interesting.
Which is also why it kind of came about in the 40s, right? Pizza was becoming more popular and people were trying to put their own twists on it to sell it and to kind of be a place to get pizza. There's a lot of expansion in terms of creativity when it comes to pizza that starts in the 40s and really continues. So that actually leads into the other pizza that I looked into, which was California pizza, which was not invented until 1971. So it's a pretty recent pizza style.
Okay.
And so what I found out about California pizza is it's more about the toppings than anything else. In 1971, Alice Waters, she owned a restaurant and she really focused on using fresh seasonal ingredients, local ingredients, things like that. And back in the 70s and 80s, that wasn't necessarily as common. It was common out in California, but it wasn't common across the country to pick your ingredients based on seasonality and freshness. So she created a pizza and served it at her restaurant Chez Penny's, and just became known because she would swap out ingredients that were fresh, local, seasonal. And then in 1980, a chef by the name of Ed Ladue was in San Francisco, and he decided to make a pizza with toppings like ricotta and pate. So now we're also getting into like the high-end ingredients, right?
Yeah,
so not just your basic pepperoni anymore. Then rumor has it Wolfgang Puck noticed his pizzas and kind of wanted him to come and make gourmet pizzas with him. And Ladue actually ended up developing the first menu for the California Pizza Kitchen. And one of the famous ones, I think, that was on that was a smoked salmon and caviar pizza. The thing is, right, again, California, you do you. It's fine. But it's mostly a thin crust pizza with like bougie fancy toppings or unusual toppings or, you know, like I'm sure goat cheese and arugula are common ones.
I'd say it's definitely influenced the pizza scene across the country, because now you could just go to a standard pizza place anywhere and probably find a pizza with arugula or goat cheese or you know, roasted red peppers or whatever. I mean, I think Domino's even has roasted red peppers and spinach as topping options, right? So
California Pizza's market is really more about the variety of toppings and just like things that you wouldn't have normally thought to put on a pizza. And again, that are fresh, local, seasonal, and delicious. So that's kind of their contribution. And that's really, I mean, like I said, in the 80s. But I think you're right that it took a little while then for it to come from California out to the rest of the country, but it definitely has influenced what toppings people might consider in their pizza. And then the last one that I looked into was the St. Louis style pizza, which I didn't realize St. Louis had a specific style of pizza that they eat. The hallmarks of their pizza are that it's a very, very crispy, almost cracker-like crust, but no yeast in the dough. So it's like unleavened. It's like a flat cracker crust. The toppings are typically sliced and go edge to edge. So I think the sliced is important probably because they stack them on top of each other. It's like just another part of their unique take on pizza. And then the sauce is on the sweeter side. And then actually my favorite part of this type of pizza is they use Provel instead of mozzarella. Have you heard of Provel? So I looked it up. So it's actually a processed cheese, kind of like American cheese, but it's a blend of provolone, Swiss, and cheddar.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And since it's processed, it has a melty quality to it.
Yeah.
And the cheddar and the Swiss and the provolone create a really good flavor to it.
Ooh.
I think a little bit more flavorful than just like traditional mozzarella.
So there's no mozzarella at all on that pizza. It's just the
No,
Provel.
just Provel.
Interesting.
Yep. And they also are round pizzas that they cut into squares. So similar to the Chicago tavern style. It's influenced by the Chicago tavern style because the guy who started making St. Louis pizza originally lived in Chicago.
That makes me think of like when you get thin crust pizza at Domino's, though. They do cut it into squares.
Yep.
Well, speaking of things cut into squares.
Yes. Now it's time to talk about the square pizzas.
I got down a rabbit hole of square pizza because I don't know. I just started looking at some other pizza types and went down this whole rabbit hole of pizzas that are square shaped and not round. So I know your original definition said that the dough is usually round, but I'm here to tell you about all the styles that are square.
Yes, I can't wait.
So basically, square styles, they all originate from a Sicilian style pizza. So kind of like how I would say probably most of the round ones, except for maybe Chicago, is originating from a Neapolitan style pizza, right? Neapolitan and then New York style. Square pizzas are basically all descendants of Sicilian style pizza.
Very different region of Italy too, by the way.
Yeah. When you think about Italian immigrants to the US, there was the Sicilian population, which was very distinct from Italian populations from other places. So the Sicilian style pizza, it's pretty old. It's from Palermo, and it was invented in 1650. So because it's that old, the original didn't have tomatoes on it. It was a onion sauce that also had anchovies.
Ooh,
because,
I like the sound of that.
Food is a little more seafood influenced. And so the original name of this type of pizza, Sicilian, it was a pizza that was served during Christmas time, like at Lent, because even though it had anchovies, that's okay to eat during Lent. And so they would eat that around Christmas time. And basically it was this onion anchovy sort of sauce. And then it had a harder cheese on it, usually tuma cheese, which is a sheep cheese, because that would have been the cheese that was from that region. It was brought to the United States by Sicilian immigrants who, came over to New York City and Philadelphia again in this turn of the century 1900 time frame. And when they came over, they shifted the ingredients that they used to what was more readily available in New York City, as opposed to what was available in Palermo. And so they started using mozzarella cheese.
Where have we heard that before? I think on our regional foods episode.
Exactly. So they started using mozzarella. They started putting a tomato sauce on it as opposed to this like onion sauce, because they could get tomatoes more
didn't
regularly.
Even happen until it was started to be made in America.
You could find some tomato sauces in Italy, but because of, like you were saying earlier, with the Neapolitan situation and when tomatoes were even brought to Italy and became more popularized in Italy, it's just not as common to have a tomato sauce.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So the big thing about Sicilian pizza and the Sicilian is that the dough is similar to a focaccia dough. And so what that means is that it has to rise a lot. There's a lot of rise time. You would typically let the dough rest for a period of time, like in a bowl, and then you would put a lot of oil in it and a lot of oil in a square pan, and you punch it down into the square pan, and then you let it rise again.
Yeah.
And then you bake it a little bit, and then you put the toppings on, and then you bake it again.
Okay.
So it's like
You're
a very
making me hungry.
See, This is why I got so hungry doing this episode. So typically it will use twice as much flour and 3 times as much yeast as other American pizza crusts. So as a New York pizza crust, it's using a lot of flour and a lot of yeast.
Well, no wonder it's more expensive.
Yeah. Well, and the time, it takes so much time to let it just like rest and rise and rest and rise again to make Sicilian pizza. So what happens is it becomes a little bit crispy on the bottom of the square pan. The pan is, so basically if you're familiar with industrial sheet pans, like you're using a half sheet size pan. So this pan will be 12 inches by 18 inches by 1 inch deep. So the pizza's going to be an inch thick because of the rise. And then it's going to be fairly large, a half sheet. It's the largest size pan that you'd be able to fit in a home oven, really, right? A half sheet. So that's Sicilian pizza. It came over to the US. And again, a similar story where it started to become more popular in the 1940s because of soldiers returning from World War II. And there's a lot of variations. One key factor is because of the dough situation. In order for it to not get soggy, a lot of times when you get Sicilian pizza, it'll be cheese on top of the dough and then sauce on top of the cheese. Like that's sometimes a common situation.
They have like that signature. Sometimes they like stripe it too, right? Is that Sicilian style? Or is that a variation?
I mean, you could. Yeah, it just depends on like what the pizza place wants to do. Because sometimes you could get Sicilian style where they'll bake the dough a little bit and then they'll be able to put the sauce on and the cheese on top because the dough's sort of like pre-baked a little bit too. So it just depends. But often you'll see sauce on top of cheese in Sicilian pizza. An interesting twist of Sicilian pizza is found in a couple different places, the big ones being Philadelphia and Rhode Island and Utica, New York. But these are pockets where you would have Sicilian population. And this style is, in Philly, it's known as tomato pie. In Rhode Island, it is typically called bakery pizza or red strips.
Have I ever heard of either of those?
Yeah, in Utica, New York, it's tomato pie. So what this is it's again similar to that original Sicilian pizza that was brought over from Sicilians. And because the original, if we remember, had just a sprinkle of the hard cheese, what the tomato pie or red strips or bakery pizza, what that is it's basically just the dough with tomato sauce and then maybe a dusting of Parmesan, just like a hard cheese.
Oh. So that sauce better be good.
It's basically just tomato sauce, on top of the dough. But again, it's focaccia-like dough and then tomato sauce on top and then, maybe a dusting of the hard cheese. Something that's interesting about this one is that it's usually eaten at room temperature. And a lot of times to buy this pizza, you would go to a bakery. So that's why sometimes it's called bakery pizza, is because you get it at a bakery as opposed to a pizza shop. Although I have been to a Wegmans in Philadelphia and you can definitely just buy it at a Wegmans.
Of course. Of course you can.
Yeah. The earliest reference they see to tomato pie was in Philadelphia in 1910. That's one of the earliest bakeries that they have with reference to making this tomato pie. So early 1900s again. Another variation on the Sicilian pizza is grandma style. This is essentially a quick version of Sicilian because it takes so long for the focaccia bread to rise. Women on Long Island who were stay-at-home moms or grandmothers, they would make this variation of pizza just in their own home. So it was a way to make Sicilian style quick and easy at home. You also bake it on a half sheet pan, so an 18 by 12, 18 by 13. But because you're not waiting as long for the dough to rise, the crust is going to just be crispier and thinner. So you're just making that dough and putting it into the pan and then making the pizza a square pizza. Grandma style became popular. I was reading a lot of this information from the King Arthur flour website.
Nice. Yeah. They are the authority on all things flour.
So this became popular in the 1970s. And part of the reason they think that it didn't really become popular until the 70s was because before that, it was a pizza of the home. So it's just what you eat at home. You wouldn't see it in a restaurant because it's just the quick home version of pizza. But in the 70s, people started wanting to, again, have that sort of nostalgic food that they ate when they were kids. And so restaurants started selling that pizza just because of the nostalgia factor. And so you start seeing grandma style pizza. Again, a similar situation where the cheese might go on top of the dough and then the sauce on top of the cheese because of trying to prevent the dough from becoming soggy with the sauce. Yeah.
That sounds like something I want to make this weekend.
We have grandma style pizza. It seems like it's pretty easy to make
and
at
it sounds
home.
Easier.
You just put the dough in a pan.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I think.
And then I'll mention 2 more square pizzas really quick because I think these are interesting. The first is Altoona style pizza, which I had never heard of until I started doing this research. And Altoona style pizza is specifically in Altoona, Pennsylvania. It was created at the Altoona Hotel. It is a Sicilian style pizza, but the toppings are tomato sauce, salami slices, slices of green bell peppers, so like a pepper ring.
Oh my god, that sounds terrible.
And American cheese.
No. Yes. No.
Originally it was Velveeta, but then they changed it to American. It was invented in the late 1960s, early 1970s at the Altoona Hotel. So I think that's where the Velveeta is probably coming from. However, the hotel that invented it burned down in 2013. But some local pizza places, as a result of that hotel burning down, started selling Altoona style pizza on their menus because you couldn't get it at the hotel anymore. You can eat it hot or cold. So similar to the tomato pie situation. And
cold melted American cheese is not appealing to me.
And the local AA baseball team, the Altoona Curve, they rebranded themselves as the Altoona Pizzas for their like local food promo thing. So it is a pizza style that exists so much that the baseball team became the Altoona Pizzas.
A very specific location.
It's very specific. I got some information about this pizza from Penn State University, their newspaper. Did a little article about it because a pizza place in State College decided to start selling Altoona pizza because some of the students that went to Penn State were from the Altoona area. And so they wanted to offer something fun for those students. But it was mixed reviews in the Penn State article.
Okay. I imagine that is a controversial pizza.
I feel.
I don't know that that's ever going to really spread, to be honest.
Yeah, also the mascot that they did for the baseball, it looks like
I was going to ask.
Yeah, it looks like SpongeBob SquarePants, but it's like a pizza
But it's a
slice.
pizza. I was going to ask if their logo was like a pizza slice.
Yeah, with like feet and a face.
Oh my god. Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Also a variant of the, I would say, grandma pizza style. But I want to mention it because it's the pizza that I always had growing up. And I only recently realized that this is a very regional pizza and pretty much only exists in Western New York, Northeast Ohio, and maybe some parts of Northwest Pennsylvania. It's very specific.
When you told me about this, I was like, I do not know what you're talking about. It's the same feeling you had when I said nacho cheese comes with all breadsticks.
Yes. So what I'm talking about is a sheet pizza. It's called a sheet pizza because you bake it on a sheet pan, but instead of on a half sheet pan, like a grandma style pizza that you could fit in your home oven, this is baked on a full sheet pan at a pizza place because they have space to bake a full sheet pizza, but it's the same kind of premise where you just put the dough on a sheet pan and make pizza toppings on it, but it's just very large. So a full sheet size is 18 by 26 inches. So usually you're getting around 32 slices of pizza in a full sheet pizza.
That's crazy. That's a lot of pizza.
So when I was growing up, like if you got together with your family or your friends or having a party or whatever, you just buy a couple of sheet pizzas because you get 32 pieces, like decent sized pieces of pizza.
Yeah.
And
no, if I had that available, I'd be ordering it too.
I
for
was
parties
shocked.
And stuff.
Yeah, when I moved, so since I had it in New York and then I had it when I lived in Ohio, when I moved to Kansas, I was having a party and was like, oh, I'll just get a sheet pizza. And I was shocked to find out that there were nowhere to get sheet pizzas. And then the more I moved around, the more I realized, oh, that's because literally the only places that have sheet pizzas are Western New York and Eastern Ohio.
Yeah.
And I did not realize that that was a very specific type of pizza.
I wish that trend would come down into Indy. Like, it all I have to do is move across Ohio a little bit. Because
the last pizza I'll talk about is also square, but I saved it for last because I feel like it is a recent pizza trend.
We discovered it is.
Yes, and this is Detroit style pizza. Like all of the other pizzas I talk about, it is basically a variant of Sicilian pizza. And I don't want people to come at me when I talk about this, but it's a Sicilian. It's a Sicilian pizza. So anyway, Detroit style pizza is becoming popular over the last 10 years, I'd say, is when Detroit style pizza became popular. I feel like it has a similar backstory to what you were talking about with Chicago style or with New York style, where it was one guy made this type of pizza and then his employees branched off and also made that type of pizza. So in 1946, again, we're in the 40s, similar to a lot of these other times is when pizza became popular in the US. This guy, Buddy, he was working at a pizza place in Detroit and he wanted to try out new types of pizzas, right? The market's expanding, kind of like Chicago deep dish. And so he picked up, basically it was an unused oil pan from auto manufacturing places.
Makes sense.
So that, Detroit. So that pan size was 10 by 14 by 2.5. So I think that's the big difference here is that it's a very deep pan, because 2.5 inches, and then not quite as big as a grandma style pan. It's a little smaller and deeper. And so he used that pan, and then his wife brought a recipe for Sicilian style dough into the pizza place, and they were like, well, what if we make Sicilian style pizza in this pan? So it's that focaccia dough. And then the other big difference is the type of cheese they use, which is Wisconsin brick cheese. And I was very confused about this because I assumed that brick cheese just meant that it comes in a brick shape. But no,
that's what I would have thought. No?
Brick cheese is a type of cheese. It's just called brick. Yeah, so instead of it being cheddar cheese, it's brick.
Wait, brick is the flavor of cheese?
Yes.
What?
I know.
What does brick taste like?
I got very confused by this whole thing. And I went down a rabbit hole of trying to figure out what flavor brick was. Basically, it's mild and buttery and good for melting. We can link in the show notes a link to brick cheese I found. So that was the big thing, is that Wisconsin brick is the cheese, and then it was baked in this type of pan. And so he started making that. One of his employees broke off and started a place called Louie's. And so Louie started making that style pizza. And then another employee broke off and created a place called Cloverleaf. And Cloverleaf started making that kind of pizza. So it was pretty much in Detroit, if you went to Buddy's or Cloverleaf or Louie's, you could get this style.
So the square, thick.
The square, Sicilian style pizza. What is interesting is that Detroit is home to several pizza chains. Little Caesars started in Detroit. I think a lot of people know that because of sports being played at Little Caesars Arena. But Domino's also started in Detroit, which I did not realize.
Know that. Domino's does not offer deep dish pizza typically, right?
No.
I mean,
they have like New York style and thick crust style and thin crust style. And Little Caesars offers a square deep dish. So basically in Detroit, there was lots of pizza places. And so if you wanted this Sicilian based style of pizza, you could go to one of these places. What I found that was interesting was how it kind of became more popular. So in the 1980s, in pizza trade magazines, you would see references to a Detroit style pizza. But according to this article I read on Eater, basically at that time, when people were reading that in the trade magazine, they were like, oh, that's Buddy style pizza. Like everyone knew that it was Buddy's style of pizza when the trade magazines were referring it to as Detroit style. So you didn't really see that term Detroit style pizza being used at all outside of trade magazines. But then the first places to really use the term Detroit style pizza, one was in 2011, where these two brothers, the Hunt brothers, they opened a pizza place in Austin, Texas, and they made that style of pizza and purposefully called it Detroit style in order to differentiate it from the other types of pizzas that were being found in Austin. So they really leaned into the term Detroit style to make that kind of pizza.
Yep.
And then
it's probably also like down in Texas, they're like, here's something you've definitely never had.
Yeah.
And it's from Detroit.
And then in 2012, a employee from Cloverleaf, so that was one of the original places you could get it. His name was Sean Randazzo, and he opened the Detroit Pizza Company in 2012. And he went to the International Pizza Expo in Las Vegas, which my partner's cousin's husband, he owns a pizza shop in Rochester, New York. And so I follow him, and I've seen his Instagram account of going to this International Pizza Expo, and it is crazy. Like,
can we go to the Pizza Expo?
I think you have to be like in the industry.
Oh,
because it's like all these like equipment sales and like different sauces and like all this
so
stuff.
Interesting,
to, like, yeah, it's crazy. But so anyway, so in 2012, Sky Sean, he goes to the International Pizza Expo in Vegas and makes the pizza from Cloverleaf and was named World Champion Pizza Maker at that competition. So he, starts the Detroit Pizza Company. People are recognizing this style of pizza because he won that competition. And at the company, he makes his own pans. So people who want to make this style can buy pans from him that are in this size and shape. And he is a consultant and he trains restaurant owners on making this type of pizza. One of the restaurants that started making this kind of pizza, called Emmy Squared in New York City, they opened in 2016, and they are the ones that started the trend of, a lot of times if you buy this kind of pizza, you'll see it served on like a cooling rack on a small little metal baking tray. And so Emmy Squared in Brooklyn, New York is the one that started that trend of serving Detroit style pizza in that manner. And they also started a trend of using some different toppings. So for example, the cup pepperoni that I feel like sometimes is a little ubiquitous on Detroit style pizza, those like pepperoni cups that get the grease in them. So that comes from Emmy Squared. Original Detroit style pizza a lot of times would have the pepperoni on top of the dough and then the sauce and the cheese, because again, like a lot of other Sicilian pizzas where you need a barrier in between the dough and the sauce, they would put the pepperoni first. More recently, Buddy's pizza in Detroit in 2018. They received investment from a private investment firm to expand their pizza chain. So maybe it's going to become like an Uno's situation. I don't know. Okay. What I thought was interesting is if you go to Buddy's website, it specifically says Buddy created this pizza in 1946. And this was the first known square pizza in the U.S. And now more than 78 years later, the pizza style has become a national favorite. And I'm just a little confused about that claim, to be honest. Like, Detroit pizza's delicious, but I'm pretty sure it was not the first known square pizza in 1946 when you have tomato pie and stuff being created in 1910.
Yeah, I was just going to say, what about the grandma style pizza?
Right. I'm not quite understanding that claim. But what
Someone wants to reach out to us and explain how you can legally say that.
How you can claim to be the first square pizza. I'm just confused about that on their website. But what I think is interesting is a lot of people have been saying that the name Detroit style has been a recent kind of leaning in because of the changing image of the city of Detroit in the last 10 years. Detroit declared bankruptcy in 2013, and you really see the popularity of this pizza kind of going off at the same time frame.
Interesting.
The ones in New York City were being opened in 2016. So a lot of people are saying that there was just this image shift of Detroit and the pizza sort of went along with it.
Yeah.
But I think it goes back to what you were saying.
Rebrand.
Yeah. But I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier with like the Chicago style, you know, typical Chicagoans are eating tavern style, not Chicago deep dish. And so I think it's interesting to point out what it means for when a pizza is named after a place, even if it's not the pizza type that most people in that place are eating necessarily.
Right. Or it's not the most common even. But I think what has happened is probably as it went to other places outside of Detroit, it was just easier to associate it with Detroit because it was something unique from that location.
Yeah. Well, now there's a ton of places in Detroit that have Detroit style pizza too, because it's becoming more popular as a style, but it is pretty recent. Just like how California has become pretty recent and influenced things, you have Detroit pizza coming in and influencing pizza trends too.
That does make me think, like, if that was a little bit part of their rebound, right? So like Detroit was really struggling and having a hard time, and now they're trying to like attract people back there, like you said, kind of change the image of what people previously associate with Detroit. I think it's funny that part of that is a pizza. Like, I think that speaks to the power of, one, regional food. We've already established that. But then, two, pizza as something that all Americans love. And I think we're always looking for a unique take on pizzas. I think people enjoy kind of being like, oh, I'm going to have a Chicago deep dish. Like, that's something really different Chicago, than...
I'm going to go to New York and have pizza in New York. You know.
Right, and I'm going to fold it and because it's thin, and so it becomes this very regional pride feeling, and and it's all centered around pizza. It's a very, very popular food here.
Yeah, I think
a unifying food, if you will.
It is right. I think what was interesting to me with researching this episode is really just how related all of these pizzas are, right? Even the originals, like even original New York style pizza, it's like an employee of a thing that expands it. You know, the development of pizza in that way. It's almost like a family tree situation.
Yes.
Pizza.
Yeah, it just keeps on branching off and people keep on trying different things and putting their own spin on it or whatever. I think what I found most fascinating are two things. One, that brick is a flavor. And two, that someone would put American cheese over salami and green peppers on a pizza. That blew my mind. Pennsylvania. More seriously, though, I guess I never really thought about when pizza really started becoming popular in America. And realizing that was not until the 40s was kind of crazy, because even though it's been around, like that's when it really took off and has morphed into this giant industry that it is today. I mean, right? Like how many pizza delivery places are there near you? I'm guessing there's a few. If you live in the US, you're going to have somewhere that you can order pizza. To think that really just started in the 40s and has only grown and expanded and become even more popular in terms of they're coming up with different styles still, or they're, rebranding styles, associating them with regional places or changing the toppings and making that unique. And it's pretty impressive for a food. It's a very powerful food.
Thank you for listening to Researching the Obvious. To learn more fun facts about everything that we're researching, follow us on Instagram at Researching the Obvious Pod, all one word. You can also follow us on Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you know someone that you think would enjoy listening to all of our findings, please feel free to share or give us a review. Researching the Obvious is written, produced, edited, and hosted by Emily Fekete and Katie Nakanishi. Tune in next time to hear more obvious facts.